My name is Jarrod Page. I'm the Senior Operations Manager at Sovereign Hill. I'll also manage cleaning contracts, waste management and recycling.
Thank you.
It creates many problems being on a hill. It'd be much easier if we're on flat ground. I keep thinking of our horses every day walking around the site, but even our visitors that are walking up and down hills at times can find it quite difficult because it is up and down terrain. So as far as water runoff and erosion elements, it's one of the topics it's quite difficult to try and contain that. Obviously erosion is a big one, and not so where the water is running through those gullies and valleys is eroding that ground, so we have to try and contain that. And we've done that by putting in plantings, garden beds, trying to redivert a lot of that water runoff so that we can actually capture it rather than having it run off into stormwater. Yeah, within the Sovereign Hill Museum the same, we have a number of capture points, and there's 11 holding tanks on site where we capture runoff from roof and from ground. Down at our Chinese camp we have a gross pollutant trap, which all the storm water that heads down to that location is collected, and the sediment is separated from the water. The water is then pumped back into tanks and can be then pumped to other tanks around the outdoor museum. So we've introduced a reverse osmosis machine to our steam operations, and what the reverse osmosis machine does, it removes all the minerals and all the contaminants from the water, and that water that gets put into our boilers is pure water. We were having to blow down the water from our steam operations boilers a few times a day to remove all the old minerals, the old contaminants that are in there before it's settled. We no longer have to do that, and that saves us thousands of litres of water per day. And there's a map on there too. So the map, and that question you asked before about can they see it, they can look at this map of the outdoor museum and find out where all those locations are for tanks and for holdings.
Okay.
Yeah. Because a lot of them are hidden. They're there, but they're hidden.
They're hidden because they're not historic.
That's right. But if you go to the bowling alley, and one of them's marked there, you can actually look at the tank at the back of the bowling alley. You can look at the tanks at the rear of Steinfeld's or the Canadian Galley Barracks and see the size of those tanks, and obviously where we get that runoff which fills those. So.
Okay.
So, very unfortunate incident where we had quite a huge storm one evening, and the rainfall was that heavy that the gutters couldn't cope with the water. So the stormwater or the stormwater traps overflowed. That water ran all the way down Main Street, down into our entrance building, flooded the entrance building, and then continued to work its way, following the downward slope of our environment, through what we then called our voyage to discovery, and caused millions of dollars worth of damage through there. So, it was quite devastating to see such a great facility get the damage that it did. And
so, what was done after that to make that not happen again?
So we've installed bluestone wall in the hopefully unlikely event that happens again, that the water can be captured at that wall point and then rediverted back down towards our diggings and facing it away from the entrance.
So when you first walk in the entrance and you see that little bluestone garden there,
yes,
with the planting and all that, that's a deliberate thing to stop the runoff from getting into there.
That is correct.
It's an environmental control.
Correct.
It's not just there to look good.
No, it's not there to look good, even though it does look good with beautiful gardens around it. Yes, purpose built for that reason.
Yeah. Now, you've had a fair bit to do with like waste management around the place, and,
yes,
and you're involved in a fair bit of the recycling. Number one, why?
I was involved with our waste management as far as the contract. And when I first received that contract, we really started looking at how we're managing our wastes on site. And we knew at that point that we were recycling very limited amounts of our waste.
Now, can I just ask at this stage, the waste is basically rubbish?
Well, not just rubbish. At that point it was. When we class waste, we say anything that goes to landfill is waste.
Okay.
So, and everything from our bins across the site was going to waste, okay, going to landfill. So we thought, well, how about we start trying to look at separating our recyclable materials from our receptacles, our bins across the site. We applied for some grants through our waste contractor at the time, and we made purpose-built bin surrounds, which we could then have recycling written on the front, and we had general waste written on the other bin. In the first 12 months of us implementing that, we diverted 53% of our waste that was going to landfill to recycling. So streams like paper, bottles, glass, plastics, foils, those types of items were being recycled and not going to landfill. So it was a cost saving for us, but environmentally it was the right thing to do. And we still continue very strong in ensuring that all our products on site are recycled.
Economically, is it worth the effort, or is it really more that it's the right thing to do?
Economically, it'd be interesting to actually crunch the numbers again now. I think you will still find that yes, economically it is better for us to make sure we're doing the right things with our waste. But again, it's about being doing the right thing.
Was there a difficulty in getting those recycle bins? I mean, the fact that bins themselves are not historically accurate, so we're stepping on the socio-cultural values of the place by not being historically accurate. But recycling bins are definitely not historically accurate. Was there any argument in a historical sense about that?
Yeah, most certainly. And I think that is that thing of coming of age, like when Sovereign Hill was first started operating in 1970, recycling in 1970, who would have thought that 40 years later the whole world globally has changed so much in their outlook of how we manage our waste system. So our design team, and our operations team would have been looking at, what's the best way to try and have these recycle images around Sovereign Hill hidden. So little brass templates were made to sit on tops of the bins, which had global understanding, like global symbols. Thank you, global symbols. So that people who can't read the word recycling would look at these symbols and go, oh, I can put bottles, paper, cups into this bin. So the word recycle, yes, it's not 1850s, but it's something that we had to put on, and we're allowed to let that go.
What do you think is like the biggest use of electricity on the site? Would it be lights?
Lighting would be up there. Heating and cooling is a big one. But even our programs for Blood on the Southern Cross would be a heavy user of power. So to try and compensate for the amount of use that we have, we've introduced solar systems across different parts of the Outdoor Museum. Solar system at the Brightview at our main administration building. And there's a 16 kilowatt system into that space, which obviously assists in replacing some of the power usage. So what's not used goes into the grid. And in 2015, we also installed about 288 panels, it was, on the Gold Museum roof, which works the same as about 72 kilowatts of solar energy over there, which obviously helps operate Gold Museum and feeds the grid as well.
So,
put out at an umbrella.
Here at Sovereign Hill, part of the historical thing too is that they have to be hidden.
Yes.
Yeah. So they're sort of outside the museum, would you say?
Yeah, that's it. And it is interesting because it's also about placement. Obviously, facing north solar panels in Victoria, or this side. So they have to be hidden, from visitor view, but they also have to get their best view into the sun. So there's a lot goes into exactly where they're going to go, and we have other areas which we're looking at installing solar panels. So our Wastewise accreditation, we started that in, I think it was around 2008, and it was a state government initiative, and we engaged Central Highlands Regional Waste Management Group to come and assist us in improving the way that we manage our waste streams. So we talked before about general waste and recycling of what we class as litter or wasted material in your business, but that has now ceased, unfortunately. However, we didn't just stop delivering that program. We continued and have gone way further, where it was around plastics, recycling of those materials, plastics, timbers, and glass bottles and cans and newspapers and items. We've now increased that into our battery recycling, so all our batteries that we use across the site in our torches and devices and controls and the way of the world, they're all recycled. All our globes that we have across the Outdoor Museum were changed from a halogen globe or an old style globe to LED or more efficient globes that don't burn as much energy, so our energy consumption has been reduced.
Well, there's no money for this, in terms of the state government. Why are we doing it then?
Again, we get back to it's the right thing to do.
Yeah. So it's part of our sort of commitment to the rest of society that we're doing.
Yeah. And that will continue. Even now, we have Sovereign Hill has a green and gold team, which is our recycling team, and we meet monthly to discuss how we can improve in managing our waste streams across the site. So good to have some support there.
Yeah.
I'd definitely introduce more solar panels across our site. We have a great amount of solar panels at our Gold Museum and at Brightview, but I'm sure there's enough space here to put more solar panels.